guys, we are here with Daisy this morning. Daisy and I are out working on her pressure and release and her loose leash healing right now. She started training with us last week and she's doing great. She is a sweet little puppy. She's got full of energy and she is just all silly smiles all the time. She's such a funny girl. Daisy and I are working on, you can't see it because she has a black leash and a black nose, but we are working on transitional, where we figure 8 the slip lead and it goes up and around her muzzle. And that is to apply the pressure to the pressure points in her muzzle as well as the ones in her skull. So we have been working on pressure and release inside the house today and out and about, like when we were taking potty walks and, during lessons and all that. But this is the first time that Daisy is working on transitional healing and really using that pressure and release to do an official heel today. So we've gone up and down my road, I don't know, 2 or 3 times now, and she's doing great. She took, as expected, she took a few minutes to really start figuring out how to get pressure to turn off, but she's starting to pick up on it. Good girl. Okay. You can see she's starting to pick up on it now. It was taking us quite a few minutes, and I was having to push her butt the first couple times. Then we just go to tapping her butt a little bit, and now we are up to the point where she is starting to understand. It goes, good girl. Okay. It goes away when pressure releases when her butt hits the ground or she goes into a calmer state of mind. So notice we don't say the word SIT. I do in the beginning when I'm teaching them the action of putting their butt to the ground. But we are actually really trying to teach them that it means calm down. So when you're doing this, when we're out on a heel, you can see as soon as she gets ahead, this pressure turns on. So you're going to have 3 options. You have red light, yellow light, and green light. So you're going to think of this as a traffic light. Daisy? My neighbor's outside, so it's distracting. Good girl. Okay. So your red light is what we just did. It's a full stop, and we hold pressure straight up and down. Just 2 fingers worth of pressure, light pressure. Less is more when you do this. If you teach your dog that this tiny little force of pressure means I need you to stop what you're doing or focus or calm down or pay attention, that's all the pressure you're going to need is just those tiny little pops. If you're doing this big heavy-handed thing where you're wrapping this around your hands, never do that. This should always just be resting just right there, right? So that you can use this as a communication. Good girl. Good job, Daisy Deuce. That you can use this as a communication device. So when we're walking and we have this loose leash where it's a U shape, that's our green light. So right now she's getting a little wigged out with it on her face, so we're going to calm down. Good girl, Daisy. Heel. Good girl. So when we have that U shape, that's a green light. That little pop that I did right there, that's a yellow light. Yellow lights are just to say, calm down, pay attention. It's not a full-on, we need to stop and go into a calmer state of mind. But it's, hey, focus, pay attention. You're not looking at what I'm doing. You need to relax a touch, right? If she's doing all that, now again, this is the first day she's doing transitional, and that's, I would say 99.9% of my dogs that I do transitional with do the same thing. It's not uncommon for them to paw at it on their face. Now, the key is to never allow them to get it off of their face, because if they do, they're going to figure out the longer I fight it, I can eventually get it off. I've done it before. But she has never once gotten this off of her face, and we don't do it heavy-handedly. You got to remember that less is more, and a light leash is going to be how you're going to get loose leash healing. So this always has to just be resting on your fingers so that you can give her those little communicators. So dogs don't speak English. We don't speak bark. So having that common line of communication where we use a pressure and release system is going to be key to training your dog and working with them on a daily basis, because not only are we going to be able to use a leash to do that, Daisy is going to be doing e-collar. I had trained one of their other dogs in the past They used e-collar for her as well and really enjoyed using that with her. So we're going to do the same thing for Daisy. And so you have a couple different, give me Daisy, you have a couple different forms of pressure that you can use now. So you're going to be able to use leash pressure to communicate. You're going to be able to use yourself as a form of pressure, which is going to be using the front of your body to move in and back off as a pressure on and pressure off. And then you'll also have her e-collar, which is going to be pressure on, pressure off, pressure on, pressure off. Right? So it's all about just communicating with your dog to pay attention to you, right? We won't go into e-collar rules and everything, but the e-collar is a great way for that because it really allows you to understand that you are just communicating with Daisy, basically saying, pay attention, look at me. And then once she does, you can tell her what you want her to do. So it's not a way to reprimand them for not doing what you asked them to do. Like, you don't want to say sit and they don't do it, so you jack up the collar until they sit. That is not how the tool should be used. And that's how you get fear-motivated dogs, and you use that tool wrong and it gets a bad name. When really it's a great tool if it's used properly as a way to just communicate with your dog when they're off leash. Hey, I'm talking to you right now, I need you to pay attention. And then when they're looking at you, you tell them what you want them to do. So you can see with Daisy right now, we're doing a lot of pops right now. Do a stop right now. The more stops we do, the better, especially in the beginning, because we're trying to really get her to understand that pressure, good girl, that pressure does not go away until her butt hits the ground. So I keep that constant pressure on, and again, it's only 2 fingers worth of pressure. That's it. If she backs up into it, I kind of move with her so that she doesn't apply too much force. Good girl. Okay. So we're going to imagine that you have this invisible box. Oh, my cat's here too, so she'll probably get distracted by my cat. But when you're healing, what you want to do is imagine you have an invisible box right next to you. Now, anytime Daisy goes in front of it, to the side of it, or tries to go behind me, she is going to naturally turn pressure on just by the way that you control your leash. So if it's always loose and she's too far behind and that turns on, she's going to understand it means I need to change something I'm doing. So the pops are great because it's like, hey, look at me. Good girl. And then I'm just going to use positive tones. Good job, these dudes. Good girl, to keep her moving. She's starting to get a little tired, which is great because she's getting a lot of physical and mental exercise right now, which is the amazing thing about healing is you are working their brain and their body at the same time. So you're double downing on giving them good exercise, and she's going to be tired after this, especially considering we're going to go do playtime after this too. She'll take a nice nap this afternoon. So another thing you want to remember is you don't want to do a lot of straight lines. Now, the reason I am right now is because I'm focusing a lot on pressure and release, being as this is the first time we are doing transitional together. I really just want her to focus on learning. We move when this is loose, we stop when there's pressure. But once she starts to get really good at this, in a few more days, I'm going to start doing a lot more things like this, where I turn and I do zigzag patterns, and I don't do a lot of straight lines. So if you're just walking in a straight line, think of it like you're playing a game of follow the leader with a kid, and you're the leader, and all you do is walk in a straight line. That is the most boring game ever, and they're going to lose focus on you real quick. That's exactly what your puppy's going to do. She's going to be like, this is boring. The whole idea behind healing is follow me at my pace. So it's like you guys are playing a game of follow the leader, and she has to follow you wherever you go, whatever direction you go, whatever pace you go. We can walk really slow. We can jog. We can do zigzags. We can do figure eights. We can do circles and squares. I live on a cul-de-sac, so I like to do a lot of circles around the end of my street. So anything you can do to keep her focusing on you is key, because if they start focusing on other things, they might be walking with a loose leash, but they're not necessarily healing because they're not following you. So if she's in front of me right now, even though there's a loose leash, she can't possibly be following me if she's in front of me, right? So she has to be right about there. So as soon as she passes by me, I'm going to give her a reminder. I'm not going to wait until she's way up there pulling and then it's like, oh, what do I do? She's pulling. Stop her before she gets to that point, right? You're going to let her know as soon as she breaks that heel that, nope, you got to pay attention to me again. Good girl. If she's lagging behind, I'm not going to pull her to move, because if we're teaching her that pressure means red light, stop, red light cannot mean move also. So you cannot pull your dog around turns. You can't pull her if she's lagging behind. You've got to like pat your leg or give good girls and kissing noises, start kind of jogging or get excited, get her moving with you again, right? If she's trailing behind, it's because she's kind of like, this is boring, I don't like this. She's looking for other things to do. So you can see she's like, looking around, which is normal. She is a puppy, and I'm going to allow her time to do that as well. She gets lots of time to sniff around in the field and everything. We got a nice big sniff area for her there, so she gets plenty of time to explore and all of that. But when we're out working, you want to remember that you're working and you want to give her exercise so that she's mentally tired and you guys are building a working relationship with each other. Not only are you teaching her what you want her to do, but you guys are building a foundation for your relationship. If you teach her now, this is just the norm of how we always do things. This is just how she's going to grow up, and you're not going to have to correct things all the time. So I always like to say training isn't about correcting things after they've messed up. It's about setting them up for success and only allowing them to do the things you do want them to do. Yes, accidents are going to happen, but not just potty accidents, but, chewing things. But that's really on you as a handler to understand that I need to pay attention to her better, give her more mental stimulation, give her more of a routine, and, you have to have repetition, you have to have follow through, and you have to have consistency. If you don't do those things, she's going to pick up on that and she's going to give you the same reading back, right? So just make sure that when we are out and about, or really anytime that you are setting her up and letting her know, hey, do this, do this, do this, good job, good job, good job, not just giving her all of this freedom and then she messes up and it's like, why haven't you learned, We don't want that. We don't want to correct things after they've happened. Don't wait for your kid to stick a fork into an electrical socket before you tell them, we don't do that. So same idea, set them up for success and what you want them to be in the future. So all in all, little Miss Daisy is doing great. We are working. She's not as bad with nipping at my feet when I have sandals on, but when I have sneakers on, she goes for those laces. So we're doing just like what I showed you, where we're doing those pinches on her bottom teeth, just to say off, and then that's it. And then I go to petting and go excited. If she starts nipping again, I go off, and then right back to petting again. Good girl, Daisy Doodle-Liz, come on. So right there, she's kind of dragging, so she thought we were going inside. Okay, so right there, off. She's also doing fantastic with saying off. So when she starts biting at the leash or something, if I just stop and I just, off, she's really good about dropping it, off. You don't need to, off, good girl. You don't need to, pop it out of her mouth or any of that. If you do that, she starts to think that we're playing. So just telling her, off means this is something that's not appropriate. So, but all in all, little Miss Daisy Doo's doing great. Happy little girl. So we are going to continue our walk. We're going to go do some playtime in a few minutes. And then she'll take a nice little nap until we go back and do it all again later on. So stay tuned for more with little Miss Daisy Doos. She's doing a great job. We're really excited. So follow along and watch her progress. Hope everyone has a good day. Say bye, Daisy.